Hey guys, it's Guy here from Prime Performance Physio. Today I'm joined by Frank and we are going to be running through a glute bridge 101. So just want to talk you and walk you through some of the common mistakes that we see with a very common exercise. We utilize the glute bridge a lot within rehabilitation, and so just wanted to talk you through that now. So Frank, can you start to go through a glute bridge, and we'll walk through some stuff here. So if we look at now the approach that Frank is taking with this glute bridge, this is a very common approach that we see. We see this a lot in yoga instructors or people have been to Pilates, and it's all about trying to get as high as you can. If I ask Frank, just what can you feel when you do that there? What could you feel muscles wise?
Feels like it's working through my back.
Fair. Okay, so this exercise is called the glute bridge. So it's no shock to tell you that we shouldn't be feeling it in our lower back. We should be feeling it in our glutes. If you just come up into that top end of the lift there again, Frank, just want to show you here something so you can see how we've got this extension coming through the lower back, which we shouldn't really have. This basically drives these muscles here, either side of the spine, into a contraction, which ultimately distracts away from what the glutes and also the hamstrings are doing. So what we're going to have a little look at, we'll work on a little bit of a correction here that we often explore with our patients, and that's exploring what we call a posterior pelvic tilt, okay? So Frank, could you do us a favour and show us a posterior pelvic tilt, just in isolation to begin with? Fantastic, okay? So all Frank's doing there is literally tipping his pelvis back into a posterior tilt. What do you feel as you do that?
I feel like my abdominals are working to turn my pelvis this way.
Okay. Anything coming through your glutes?
Yeah, I feel like my glutes are squeezing there as well.
Okay, so we can feel some activation through the glutes, but interestingly actually is also getting some here through the abdominals, which again is not always something that we're keen to get with the glute bridge. So we'd be very much, if you take a little breather there, very much trying to cue our patients and give them that conscious contraction in the bum. So we sometimes talk about 50 pence between the butt cheeks to just clench, squeeze. And another analogy that we'll often use is talking about the pelvis as a bucket of water. So if you imagine the pelvis as a bucket of water, and we're going to try and just tip the water out the back of the bucket there, yeah? Every last drop, that really helps to accentuate that curve. What we're going to do now then is we're going to progress through the bridge. So if you can just from here, Frank, just take one vertebra at a time off the floor there, off the mat, really trying to push up through those hips. And there we're probably coming towards the end of the rep range, yeah? So you can see Frank's a lot lower, which some patients think that's bad, but actually it's quality, not quantity. If we ask Frank again now what he can feel, so in terms of muscle recruitment,
Yeah, I can feel it working in my glutes.
fantastic. Got those hamstrings working a little bit as well, brilliant. So now we've got the glutes and hamstrings firing up, winner. Could you feel it in your lower back? Wonderful. Okay, so we've just shifted all that mechanical workload down into those glutes and hamstrings, so we can actually then start to strengthen them and see some benefit from this exercise. So this next one we're going to have a look at, if we imagine Frank's just laid down, his feet are maybe a little bit offset. So if we just offset the feet, you'd be surprised, how many times we explore this and the patient will lie down with their feet in a different position. If we then start to obviously work through the reps, we can see obviously we're not going to be set up for a particularly optimal glute bridge with this one, okay? So a little tip here just to really help make sure your feet are in a good parallel position. If Frank, I can ask you to just bring your feet together for me. So just bring them together and you should be able to get to the point where you almost feel like your ankle bones on the inside are just rubbing together nicely, okay? Or you can often feel where maybe the heel is on your trainers or your feet, and so on, okay? So do you feel like you're level? Yeah? We look there, nice and level, perfect. So if you just now turn your feet out to 10 to 2, and then bring your heels out to match. Fantastic, okay? And what that does is gives us a really nice width here as well between the left and the right side. So we've got a hip width bridge, okay? And then from there, we're good to go again. So then we think about that posterior tilt, we squeeze up, fantastic, okay? The other little hint and tip you can use here, if the feet are offset, you could do this up against the skirting board, and you would basically just put your feet up to the edge of that, or you can also use the edge of the mat here if you're on a mat, just to place your heels, if you just show them for the sake of demonstrating, Frank. So just bring your heels to the edge, so a bit further, and then if you shuffle this way a little bit, that's it. So therefore then we can just get that sense on the back of the heel here, just to make sure, yeah, the feet are nicely well positioned there. And then the next one we often see is where we come up into the bridge. So Frank, again, if you do us the honours of just lifting through into that rep range. This might be more the case if we're starting to look at maybe some single leg progressions. So Frank, I ask you to just take this left leg off the floor for me, okay, and then back down, and then we do the other side. So what we're looking at here for, if I get my trusty little spirit level out, look, is we want to try and make sure that as Frank takes one leg off each side, the pelvis stays in a nice neutral shape, and that bubble in the spirit level is staying really in the middle there. What we'll often see, if Frank, you are doing really well with this, but if you just exaggerate that tilt, there you go, look, you see the way we've lost control, we've lost hip stability, and the glutes are no longer really doing what they are supposed to be doing. So if we've got a patient that is struggling with this rotation, all we'll do is we'll get them to get their hands on their hips so they can really feel for what's happening here, build that self-awareness, and just then start to think about, can they give them in the analogy of the spirit level, or thinking about maybe a Malteser here on the pelvis, don't let it roll off to one side, and that can really help to excite those glutes better and get a much better reaction. Okay, and then the final one that we often see is where maybe we're looking at the speed. So Frank, if you just start to work through some reps here again, just show us what we maybe see with this one. So bang, okay, so yeah, so we're banging out those reps. We've maybe got 10 in a set, we want to get them done, move on to the next set or the next exercise. Ultimately, we talk about here something called time under tension, yeah? So for a muscle to fatigue and grow, it needs to be under tension for a period of time to do so. When we're moving really fast, we have low time under tension. So we slow things down, it helps to build up that time under tension, and therefore then we can start to get that muscle fatigue coming through. So we'll talk about ways of managing that. So one way that can help that is simply focusing back on that posterior tilt, because it makes you really think about that, slow the movement down, get the feeling of the peeling away from the mat. So Frank, if you just start to work through that motion again now, lovely, good tempo, okay? And then you reverse that movement by descending each vertebra onto the mat there, make sure that pelvic comes back off the tilt as well, and then back on again. And that will really help to increase that time under tension. The other thing you can obviously think about here is actually counting out, you know, in your mind or out loud, 1 to 2 to 3, probably a maximum of up to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'd say anywhere between 2 to 3 seconds is perfect for that. See what you feel works best for you. So guys, so that is the roundup of our Glute Bridge 101. I hope you found that useful. If you have, feel free to give us a like and a subscribe, and tune in for more videos coming soon.